One D&D is fucking boring. Now, I hope I kind of got your attention with that, because that's pretty much the entire gist of this video. I've recently come to the conclusion that One D&D is just a boring mess, and I've decided I'm going to just make this video to kind of explain my thought process why and what I think needs to change in order for this to be improved. Now, before I do all of that, there's two things that I need to explain. One, as I try to do with all of my One D&D videos, I'm not advocating for people buying Wizards product or playing One D&D or not playing One D&D. You do with your time what you want, you do with your money what you want. I'm personally automatically not going to support anything that Wizards does at the moment. However, I still want to talk about One D&D because it is the big news story of Wizards and Dungeons and Dragons. The second thing that I probably have to talk about is what is One D&D, right? Because there might be people who have no idea what I'm talking about. So One D&D is the new version of D&D that Wizards is releasing every 2 months at this point. They're like releasing updates to stuff. And currently, while this video is going live, I'm uploading my first reaction series to it, which pretty much talks about the last bundle that we got, which was about the fighter, barbarian, wizard, sorcerer, warlock, and weapons and whatnot. When I made that video, as with every single One D&D thingy, I went in with a couple of small spoilers and tried to figure out really what everything did, what are the changes, what got added, what got nerfed, what got buffed, you know, the standard stuff. This was the first time where I really had not really a bad feeling. I'd had a bad feeling with the druid nerfs in the fourth bundle because I didn't like those at all. But it was the first time where I really had this ominous feeling, as if this didn't fit something. There was something not right, right? And after I recorded that entire loop, I kind of started like cutting into the pieces, getting it ready to get uploaded, because I don't do that much editing on my videos. And something clicked. I was looking at that, and one of the things that I noticed was that in half of that entire first reaction video, or videos, I guess, I just constantly said, this was expected, this is a change that was good, this is what they did, small change there, small change there. It really felt like with that specific One D&D, very little changed to the original. And it got me thinking, because a little bit before that, a little while ago, I should say, we got the D&D Summit, right? And on the summit, Wizards talked about the fact that One D&D wasn't a new edition. It's not a new edition. Which a lot of us are just looking at this and going, it's bullshit. You're doing exactly like you had D&D Next for 5th edition. Now it's One D&D. You're making new stuff. Not everything is compatible. Like take the cleric subclasses. Not necessarily compatible with the new level distribution. And yet now I have to give them that. I have to give them the fact that One D&D, in a way, is not actually a new edition. It's a balance patch. That's what One D&D is. One D&D is a balance patch. It's similarly to having a large amounts of buffs and nerfs in a game like League of Legends or Dota or Overwatch or any other team player that you want to talk about. It's a balance patch. That's all it is. There's nothing more to it, right? Think about it for a second. Fighter's Action Surge got nerfed. Why? Because it was one of the most powerful abilities in the game. Paladin's Divine Smite. Sorcerers didn't really get hit that hard. Warlock got changed dramatically because Eldritch Blast now scales off Warlock levels. Things like that. Druid, the fact that they changed Moon Druid so heavily, or not Moon Druid, but Beast Shape so heavily. All of those are balance changes. And I feel this is the first time where I really saw that. Now, let's go through this for a second, because some people are probably looking at me right now going, yeah, I mean, that makes sense. That's what we expected. And it's like, yes, but it's never been as clear as it is right now. So let's go through this for a second. One D&D was announced several months ago. Don't ask me for the specific name, or not specific name, specific date, because I didn't do my research. And when it was announced, there was kind of this idea of the next step for Dungeons and Dragons. And at that point, the OGL drama hadn't happened, right? We all know this. One D&D came before the OGL. And at that point, it made sense. Because technically, if you think about it, Wizards of the Coast had the biggest part of the pie imaginable. Sure, on Twitter, you have a bunch of people that hate or fight against Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition. Completely agree with those people, by the way. You shouldn't just purely be playing 5th edition. I try to play other systems every now and again when I have the time. But if you think about it, Wizards and Dungeons & Dragons had the biggest part of the pie. So, going into a full-on 6th edition, which has a giant change to 5th edition the same way that 4th did to 3rd, the same way that 5th did to 4th, doesn't actually make sense, right? You don't want to make a fully new edition because all of your old content becomes useless in a way, right? Let's say that we go to 6th edition, your balancing of campaigns like Curse of Strahd, Into the Abyss, Salt Marsh, whatever, all of that goes out the window. Creatures might not even function the same way if you think about it. So you don't want to do that, right? So you have to be careful if you make a new edition. So if you make One D&D, which we're all thinking is kind of going to be 5.5, you want to keep the game as similar as possible, where the old adventures, old subclasses, old whatever, are either still going to work perfectly fine or require minimal change. Think about it, a lot of the subclasses that we've seen, sure, they're now at different levels, but they're still the same subclasses, right? Cleric just moved its abilities a little bit, for example. Not Paladin, I think. I think Druid also just moved its abilities. So why is that important? Because, of course, then we move ahead. We've now had 5 bundles. We've had the first bundle, which had a couple of ancestries, feats, and I think had the new idea behind backgrounds, which meant your ability score improvements now come from your background rather than your ancestry, which I actually like a lot because backgrounds become a lot more interesting. Right now, it feels like backgrounds are just this thing you tack on for 2 more proficiencies, and then a language and a tool proficiency and a feature nobody ever uses. So they changed that. That was an interesting change. That was something that I was behind. And then we kind of got into classes, and we had the expert groups. We had the groupings where they were going to start sharing features between classes the same way that expertise was shared between rogue, ranger, and bard. And then all of a sudden we got cleric, and cleric was just one class, and we were all like, why just one class? But okay, you know, but cleric changed. We had the holy arm, or the holy order ability at 2nd level, which I thought was really interesting. And then we had Druid and Paladin, and they completely destroyed Druid and nerfed Paladin. But by this point, I think by the 4th one, we were already in a state of war against the OGL changes, which now means Wizards has lost a lot. I'm not going to say that Wizard doesn't have the biggest part of the pie anymore. I don't know how big a portion of the pie they still have. However, a lot of people switched. This is literally proven by the fact that Pathfinder 2nd Edition, or Paizo, I should say, that Paizo had to commission new books for Pathfinder 2nd Edition because all of a sudden everything was sold out when the OGL came out. So Wizards lost a lot of power. And One D&D is kind of the child that they still have to do, but they are sticking to that original idea of we need to not switch around. And that's a problem, because then we get to the last bundle. The 5th bundle, to me, is a huge fucking disappointment, because I'm going to be perfectly honest, I think there's only 2 new things in that bundle. 2 things that really change. And the thing is, as I said, Wizard has lost a lot of power from the OGL. And sure, they need to keep the audience that they still have by not going to 6th edition, as I said in the beginning. But they need to start adding stuff so that we want to play 1D&D. Again, I probably still won't, but that's beside the point. If you think about it, 1D&D needs to change up the way the game plays. And they had a perfect shot, because they were doing a bundle with the martial classes, with fighter, with barbarian, monk was going to be later, sure, and then with casters, which you can throw in there as well. And yet there's only 2 big changes. Now, what are those 2 changes? The wizard scribing spells are one big change, and the second one is weapon masteries. Some of you are looking at me right now saying, those aren't the only 2 changes. There's a bunch of changes. There's Barbarian, who now can bonus action rage to keep their rage. Don't take exhaustion on frenzy anymore. The fighter champion abilities got switched around a little bit. Sorcerer got new spells. Like, no, sure, yes, but the sorcerer spell, no offense, one of them literally got stolen from Tasha's, and the rest are just chaos spells. Would you be happy getting a book full of chaos spells? I mean, maybe you've had like 100, but like 5 spells that now become sorcerer features? Yay. Barbarian, okay, that's a balance change. Again, that's not a huge change. That's the same thing like Action Surge getting nerfed because it was the most powerful ability in the fucking game, right? Because it was literally, you get to take a second action. You can do whatever the fuck you want with that action. You can double cast Fireball if you want. Like, in and of itself, just broken in and of itself. These are not big changes, and I know what the big one's going to be that a lot of people are going to pull off, which is Warlock, right? Warlock was entirely changed. No, it wasn't. No, it wasn't. What changed in Warlock? Really? It became a half-caster. What else? Oh, right. Warlock now has a choice of which spellcasting ability modifier they can choose, depending on the pact they choose. And their pact got moved to level 1. That's where it stops, guys. Really, that's where it stops. And here's the thing you have to understand. Half-caster was so predictable. Half-caster is something we have already. We have it in Paladin, we have it in Ranger, we technically have it in Artificer. We already have it. It's not special. It's not a giant change. And they just moved Mystic Arcanum to now support other level spell slots. So that doesn't even really change. It just now becomes a part of your invocations. And then your spellcasting ability modifier, ironically enough, is a change that has been suggested by the D&D community, or at least by some of them within the D&D community. I saw a video at one point of someone saying, hey, let's make Warlock spellcasting ability modifier intelligence. This is something that's been mentioned. This is not a new change. This is not a novel idea. This is something they probably nicked off the internet. So no offense, but that's not even a big change. And other than that, what has changed? The invocations remain mostly the same. If your invocation was a spell that you could cast once every day, it became a Mystic Arcanum. If it was a continuous spell, it's probably still the same. The pact features now now became cantrips, which, let's be honest, is just semantics. It's just you like calling the child a different name doesn't make it a different child, but they now become upgraded. Oh, but with features that were originally invocations, so you just get these invocations for free now. Nothing's changed in Warlock. So, okay, well, nothing is saying a lot, but not a lot has changed. If you think about it, the new Warlock compared to the old one, it's just a balance change, because let's be honest, why did they do this? Because they wanted to get rid of the short rest spell slots on Warlock, because that was the combo that worked in Coffee Lock and Paladin and whatnot to give you easy access to spell slots. I've even seen a video already that Warlock actually has less spell slots now than they did before. Warlock just got nerfed. Eldritch Blast is no longer a multi-classable cantrip, but it is one that you now have to take, which I seem to remember there were a decent chunk of people that specifically wanted to play Warlock and specifically not pick Eldritch Blasts. Why? Because fuck it, why not? Now, here, take it, you get it for free. See where I'm going with this? Warlock wasn't changed. And I've done this entire rant now on it just to prove One D&D does not change that much. Again, there were two big changes. Scribing for wizards and weapon mastery. Let's go through both of those. Scribing for wizards is the one change in the last bundle that I'm excited about. And I kind of want to mention, it was a bundle of 50 pages. One change out of 50 pages. Woohoo. I think it's cool. I think it needs to be balanced, because I'm pretty sure you can break that like fucking crazy, and I do think they need to balance it. But let's be honest, it sets up a dream that a lot of people have had in the past. MCDM's Strongholds and Followers had this ability within the tower stronghold, because then a wizard could actually take a wizard tower, and be like, okay, I'm going to use this and I'm going to improve my spells. And they took that and pretty much put it here. And I think this is a really cool ability. It just needs to be balanced a little bit. Great. Then we go to weapon mastery. Weapon mastery fixes a problem. Right? Originally, here's the thing. What weapon mastery fixes is it fixes fighter and to an extent barbarian in their weapon versatility. Let's be honest. In 5th edition, if you played a fighter, you picked up a weapon and you fought with it. That's it. You picked a one-handed weapon, which was a longsword, a warhammer, or a battle axe. You picked a two-handed weapon, which was a greatsword. Or if you were a dex, you picked a rapier. Or two rapiers if you were dual wielding. Or two longswords if you were dual wielding. But you would always have those weapons and then wait until you got a +1 version or a better one. That was it, right? And your entire game plan would be bulk. With weapon mastery, now you kind of have a reason to have an arsenal of weapons, right? You pick up let's say if you're playing on a high building, which is like 60 feet high, you now want to fight with a weapon that has the push mechanic, because then you can just and push them away and they fall 60 feet and they take 6d6 bludgeoning damage. There you go. If you're fighting against a creature with high AC, maybe you want to pick up Nick, because then whenever you miss your attack, you get to deal a little bit of damage. Maybe you want to pick up something that gives advantage to the others, right? Depending on the situation, you can change your mastery. I still think Vex is broken, but again, this feature probably still has to get balanced. The problem is, that's the only thing it fixes, right? It fixes the fact that a fighter can now have several weapons, and a barbarian technically, and I'm assuming monk is going to get a similar thing. These classes will now be able to have a set of weapons and change their weapon depending on the situation. That's it. And even then, I still think Vex is going to be one of the most broken ones. And other than that, I don't know. I don't know how good they're going to be, but I still think if a fighter gets 1+1 weapon 90% of the time, they're still just going to use that because it's the best weapon they have. And let's be honest, you really as a DM want to give them like 6 fucking +1 weapons so they can fucking swap out everything. I don't know. You're also still stuck to like, you have to fight one-handed with a shield, or you have to fight two-handed, or you have to be dual wielding because of the fighting styles, you know. But the big issue with martial classes does not get solved with this feature. And again, this is something they could have done in One D&D. And I know that this has been said to death, like this already happens in Pathfinder and yada yada yada. Not the point of the video, right? This is just me shitting on One D&D. But they never looked at the biggest complaints we have about 5th edition, which is, or one of the biggest complaints, which is martials scale linearly and casters scale exponentially. Or quadratically, or whatever you want to call it. I think it's exponentially. Which means on lower levels, wizards, sorcerers, warlocks, whatever, are extremely weak. On level 17, they cast Wish and kill everything. I'm still mad about the fact that the fucking level 18 feature for sorcerer is you now have infinite wishes. I mean, it's fuck off. But anyway, you can even, I think, make wish a ritual as a wizard these days, which is bonkers, but details. But here's the thing, right? Fighters start at a certain level, barbarians start at a certain level. They start stronger than casters because they have a little bit more hit points and they survive stuff, have more defenses. But once you get to like level 5, once you get to level 9, you want to play a caster. I notice this on a daily basis with most of my parties. The casters are the ones that get to make most of the choices. They get to say, this is what I can do. This is what I can do. This is why I was so sad that Champion Fighter was the one that they put into this bundle and not Battlemaster Fighter, because Battlemaster Fighter is just flat out a lot more interesting than Champion Fighter. Champion Fighter just get to hit, and if they roll a 19, they get to crit, and yay. Whereas Battlemaster gets to make their choices. Do I want to just attack? Do I want to grapple, or do I want to attack and use a superiority die to do one of the 3, 4, 5 features that I have? But that doesn't happen. Fighters don't have that. Barbarians don't have that. Rogues don't have that. Rangers have spells. Monks don't have that. Monks kind of have it. But even then they have like 3 choices. Flurry of blows. Excuse me. Flurry of blows. They have what? Dash or disengage, and they have dodge. And it's like, yay, that's it. And stunning strike at 5. They don't fix the actual issues. No, they balance the game. They nerf Eldritch Blast because you take one level in Warlock literally just to get Eldritch Blast on a Bard, so you now have a damaging cantrip. They nerf Action Surge because you take 2 levels of Fighter on a lot of classes just to be able to double cast stuff or to be able to do a lot of shit in one turn. They nerf Paladin because Divine Smite deals way too much damage. But all of these are so predictable. They are balance changes. They are things literally the same way that you would hit the meta in League of Legends or in Dota or in Smite or in Overwatch. The same way you're just hitting Action Surge, Eldritch Blasts, Invocations, subclasses at 1, subclasses at 2, Sorcerin, Barbarian, like literally quote unquote the meta builds, like the most powerful builds in the game. That's what you hit. Didn't even hit Wizard, let's be honest about this. Wizard is still as powerful as it used to be. Let's not hit the fucking best class in the game. No, let's just hit the fucking broken combos, shall we? You give Sorcerer a fucking coffee lock ability at level 15, but let's not talk about that. But the idea here is you don't fix anything. You do not fix 5th edition. You do not change 5th edition in a way that makes it interesting. This is a balance patch. You could have sent this to us in a fucking PDF and been like, here, try this out, have fun. And that would have been it. And that's not how you're gonna get anyone interested. Why the fuck would I play One D&D? Why would I pay for a new book which is just 5th edition but a little bit more balanced? If I have 5th edition and if, let's be honest, a bunch of people in the community can probably make a way better balance patch for 5th edition than you guys can. Let's be honest. The community spends, what, like a month? They'll probably balance fucking 5th edition. We'll call it 5-point community and we'll publish it outside of the OGL because go fuck yourself. This isn't interesting. This is not where you should be taking One D&D under any circumstances. This isn't gonna get us to buy your next book. This isn't interesting, or to put it very bluntly, this is boring. One D&D in its current state is boring. You didn't change shit with a 50-page document, except for a little bit of Wizard. Except for, you know, the class that's already seen as the top of the food chain. Because Wizard is literally probably one of the best classes, if not the best class in the fucking game. Except at low levels, because then you get one shot. And you add masteries. Congratulations. You put literally the most basic effects on them as possible. This does not get me excited. I thought I was going to read a 50-page document and I was going to be happy and was like, oh my god, this looks cool. Maybe I'll take a... You even reverted changes that I thought were good. You unchanged 2-weapon fighting just so you could put it as a weapon mastery. Really? You couldn't find a different weapon mastery to put on short swords and or scimitars that you had to unbuff 2-weapon fighting? You changed back exhaustion. I don't understand why exhaustion had to go back to its original. Was that community feedback? Was there community feedback that said we don't like the new exhaustion changes? Like, I'm legitimately just waiting for you people to just go, we're gonna bring back heroic inspiration back to rolling a natural 1 gets you advantage, because if you do that, I'm gonna fucking murder all of you. I'm not, but you know. I don't know why, but for some weird reason, you're not willing to do something funky. You're not willing to change up 5th edition. To give us a reason to keep playing it. And at that point, why the fuck would we? Why wouldn't we switch to Pathfinder? You know the holes that are there. The community has been naming them for months, if not years. This is literally your chance to fix Dungeons and Dragons. And then this is the shit you show up with? It's just boring. Let's be honest about this for a second. It's just boring.